He is the host of the Gojo Show over on DraftKings Network. You should take a look any chance you get the opportunity. He is Mike Golic Jr. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Tough news to come in on there. I'm going to have to send out the bat signal and make sure my friend Mina Kimes is okay right now. I'd imagine she is in very physical pain with the news that you guys just read.
I mean, I'm in financial pain maybe. I have some investments there in the Seahawks team. So, yeah, I would take the emotional pain right now as opposed to the financial pain that may come with this. Again, hopefully the good side of everything here. Let's talk about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We're going into the season with them sitting 13th in both of the preseason polls. I think as Notre Dame fans out there, maybe would you say over the last few seasons been a little disappointed with end results, with things, a lot of the high hopes that always really kind of doesn't feel like it gets paid off at the end? What should Notre Dame fans feel like heading into this season, and what is the payoff going to be?
Yeah, I think the payoff should be, and the goal for this team should be a double-digit win team. I think that's firmly within reach. I know their win totals around 8.5, and I like the over on that because for me, this season in Notre Dame is about resetting the floor. You mentioned what Notre Dame fans have felt, especially the end of the Brian Kelly era into the beginning of Marcus Freeman, is a comfort in knowing you were going to win the games you were supposed to. That was really, in my mind, the hallmark of where Brian Kelly had gotten the program towards the end. We can talk about the big game thing, but guys, look at what happened last year with Notre Dame. A close game against Ohio State, week 1 of the season, that by the end of the year we saw Ohio State, one of the most talented teams in college football, an absolute beatdown of Clemson at home in South Bend, and then a USC game they just couldn't keep up offensively. Caleb Williams was in his Heisman moment, but they were in the big-time games. It was the losses to Stanford, the loss to Marshall. Those are the things that we remember the 2022 Notre Dame season for. And so this year, I think it's going to be about, I think we'll be in those games. You get Ohio State a little later in the year now. You've got Clemson on the road, which is going to be tough. You get Southern Cal at home. But really, it's what are you going to do with Duke and NC State and Pitt and some of those matchups that might look like surprise games on the schedule, games where you could fall asleep at the wheel. Can Marcus Freeman have them prepared each and every week? And can that be the biggest change from year 1 to year 2?
Mike, let's get a little bit off of sports betting here and just go just strictly sports talk radio. But with the way that things are heading with the conference alignments, and it seems like we're on a collision course here for just 4 conferences, maybe by the end of the day 2 super conferences, whatever it might be. Eventually, is Notre Dame? Do you feel like in your heart of hearts are they eventually going to join one of these conferences?
Yeah, eventually. Listen, when the playoff format dictates that Notre Dame's independence is no longer an advantage or something where they still have that route to the championship, then yes, they'll absolutely join. If you had to make me guess right now, I would guess it would probably be when the super team idea hits, because you look at where they are right now. If they're able to sign another TV deal with NBC, where again, they've traditionally taken a little bit less than they would have made in the Big Ten, in the ACC, with some of those conference payouts, to maintain their independence, because ultimately they still had a path in the playoff, like they will in the 12-team expanded format, especially if they revisit the 6 automatic bids for the highest-ranked conference champions in light of what we've seen recently. That's all advantage Notre Dame. So, yes, I do think they'll eventually make their way there, but I think it's going to be once we get that final bit of consolidation into whatever version of the English Premier League we get for college football.
Right. We take a look. Your preseason number 1, Georgia. Your preseason number 4, Alabama. Preseason 5, LSU. You look down a little bit further at 12 is Tennessee. We know the SEC is at least going to have something to say when it's all said and done with all of this. When you look at those, let's focus on kind of the top 2, and then we can get into LSU in the conversation as well. But when you look at Georgia and Alabama, is this every bit the team that we're getting with this preseason 1, preseason 4? We hear all the time they just reload, right? I mean, it's just reload 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. We know Georgia's had a top 3 recruiting class basically like the last half decade.
Yeah, I think you have to give them both the benefit of the doubt at this point. For Alabama, they've proven they can weather a lot of change. And this year, it seems like with uncertainty at quarterback going into the season, 2 more new coordinators, that changes on the horizon. But Nick Saban's demonstrated an ability to absorb that better than anybody in college football. And quite frankly, that's what Georgia's got to prove now. While they've certainly had some change there, as the hunted now, and that's what they are coming off 2 straight champions. Can they shift a quarterback from Stetson Bennett, who's got 2 rings, even though we didn't think he had the ability to be that guy? Can they absorb the loss of Todd Monken, who has been an offensive coordinator that has been incredible and an instrumental part of Georgia's success on that side of the football? They've got the schedule to do it this year, and like you said, they've got the recruiting classes. So I'm a little more concerned about Alabama just because you lost a Heisman Trophy winner on an offense that didn't seem to have a lot of other weapons outside of the running back Jahmyr Gibbs last year. And I don't know if there's a ready answer for that apparent right now on the field in Tuscaloosa that we know of from the outside looking in.
Mike, are you buying all the hype on LSU? It seems like of the teams that wasn't necessarily, the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Michigans and the Ohio State, it seems like LSU is kind of getting the most chatter right now. Certainly we've seen odds fall for them. We've seen Heisman talk, all these different things that are going on. Are you buying the hype down there in Baton Rouge?
I am, just because, listen, in college football that right now is defined by chaos, is defined by the portal and movement and all these roster churns year to year, they've got something resembling consistency. Now, that's after Brian Kelly did the portal overhaul in year 1 with the amount of transfers they took, but he did a great job of setting that foundation early on. I think the Jane Daniels Heisman talk is probably a bit overblown for me. They'll have a chance because of the record. I'm not sure top end production he's going to give you enough in an offense that played to his strength, that made use of short area passes, that got him on the move as a runner early and often in that offense. I think Mike Denbrock, their offensive coordinator, did a phenomenal job taking some of the things they did with Desmond Ridder and putting those into the offense here at LSU in year 1. And so I think that, combined with a defense that's got some vicious, dynamic athletes all across the board, that's going to be a really spicy team. And after getting to Atlanta in year 1 out of the SEC West, the expectation, understandably, in Baton Rouge is going to be national championship from here on out for Brian Kelly.
Mike, got about a minute left before we let you go. What is the team that, as you dug in and you really started doing your previews, that maybe isn't getting all the hype, maybe isn't getting the helium, but people should be talking about the team a little bit more?
Especially, let's stick in the SEC. The East is fascinating. We know we're all locked in on Joe Milton in Tennessee and what Josh Heupel's offense is going to look like. But my eyes wandering to Kentucky. Devin Leary comes over from NC State, an extremely veteran signal caller, and they get Liam Cohen back on offense, the coordinator that took a year departure to go back to the Rams, that really helped make Will Levis into the prospect so many draft people salivated over in this last spring. I think that combination, coupled with a great running back coming over from Vanderbilt last year in that backfield as well, could make for a really interesting out for that team in Kentucky that's always been really solid and dependable on the lines of scrimmage, but might have the quarterback and coordinator combination to once again make them a pretty interesting threat.
He is the host of the Gojo Show. Find him on the socials at Mike Golic Jr. for all the great insights. Mike, thanks for the time, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.